Alright gamers, well, the moment has finally come. Time to take a look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Yes, this one is one of my most anticipated games that I've been looking forward to ever since last year, or I should say earlier last year to be exact, since this game was announced. And as you know, I've been a huge fan of the Ninja Turtle games, despite the fact that we can all agree that most of the more recent entries have not been the greatest. And, well, like it or not, I'm more of a fan of the arcade-style beat-em-up type of Ninja Turtle games, like the old-school ones in particular. Yes, I even sort of enjoyed the first one on NES, despite that one being hard as hell, but mostly the first arcade game, which I already reviewed, as well as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Manhattan Project, but most importantly, Turtles in Time. But don't worry, people, those games have not been forgotten about, and you already know if you've seen my video of how excited I am of the upcoming Cowabunga collection, which is going to be a multiple console release. But in the meantime, let's beat 'em up and eat some pizza with Shredder's Revenge. Now, when I saw the trailers for this, like most other people, I lost my mind. Being able to play as all four of the Ninja Turtles, playing up to 6 players at this, whether it's local or online multiplayer, I mean, you can't go wrong with that right there. You can also play as April O'Neil. Yeah, I guess you can finally say you have my support this time, because she kicks some ass pretty good. As well as the Turtles trainer, Master Splinter. And yeah, he's definitely got a lot of power for an old wise rat. Yeah, each character, as you can tell, has their strong and weak points. Judging by how many stars they have, if they have 3 of them, that's their strong point. Whether it's power, speed, or range. And it's an obvious no-brainer that Donatello has the best range with his long staff weapon. Raphael has more strength, Michelangelo has more speed, and Leonardo, I'm not gonna lie, is probably my least favorite character out of this whole bunch. And April O'Neil is actually pretty decent. And might I address that this game not only has an arcade mode that you just play straight through, with no save feature and a limited number of lives and continues, but it also has, most importantly, the story mode. Both this and arcade mode have 3 different difficulties to choose from, as well as cutscenes in the middle of each level, primarily after you've beaten each one, with some pretty good voice acting, I will say. But on story mode, you do get a save feature, allowing you to continue where you left off. Well, only one, because if you start a new game on story, it'll overwrite the other one. But most importantly, in this mode, you get an entire map screen, whereas every time you beat a stage, it unlocks a new one, allowing you to travel across the entire board, and even go back and replay some stages that you've already beaten before. Almost similar to if any of you played the Scott Pilgrim beat-em-up game, which is also available on multiple consoles, and it's actually a really good beat-em-up game, but yeah, it could be hard as hell too as well. But thankfully with this game, even if you're not a fan of Ninja Turtles, it's very easy to pick up and play. But if you're a die-hard fan who grew up with this franchise, then this game will have you absolutely drooling at the mouth as you make your way through 16 stages of awesome arcade-style beat-em-up action. Mind-numbingly redundant, but satisfying and as fun as ever. Shit tons of Foot Clan to fight through, the basic easy-to-beat purple ones. Got the ones with swords. You got the ones with the axes, you got the ones with the long spears, you got the ones with the really long swords attached to the staffs, you got the green ones that shoot bow and arrows, yellow ones that throw weapons at you almost like a boomerang, the ones that carry shields, the ones that carry and shoot these plungers at you. Okay. Thankfully, if your timing's right, you can deflect them and hit them right back. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, you got the ones with these big ball and chains. You got these ones with lasso ropes that can really be annoying. God, untie me, god damn it! But the hardest ones, in my opinion, are the black suit ones. I mean, yeah, you can hit them as hard as you can, but if you don't know the right move to do on them, they can jump backwards and throw daggers at you. Jesus. This is where the super moves come in, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, you have all these different types of Foot Clan. Some are easy, and some could just be a straight up pain in the ass to beat. You got those annoying little robotic things on wheels, which thankfully don't zap you, they instead lasso you. Really? And they also throw bombs and stuff. So they're not as annoying to take out as they are in Turtles in Time. In fact, most of the time you can actually take them out by hitting the explosive can. Not always guaranteed to work, but it helps. You get those annoying little mouser things that jump all over and try to grab onto you. Come on, get the hell off me! And they actually take more hits than they did in Turtles in Time to die. What's even worse are the big robots that summon these things. And they take even more hits to kill. Yeah, there's plenty of these giant robot things in this game, as well as some pretty big enemies that take a lot of hits to kill, like these dinosaur things, and even ones with shields, which are definitely tougher to take, but easy trick, just get on the other side of them that's not shielded and boom. But you gotta be careful because a lot of them can be armed. Kinda reminds me of those rock guys from Turtles in Time, and yep, speaking of which, they make a return a little bit later in the game. And trust me, they could be just as a pain in the ass as you remember them with their weapons and their charging. And may I once again say super move, which I'll get into a little bit, or heavy swing move, which you perform by holding the punch button in for a split second to build up your charge, and boom. Does much more damage than a regular punch. You also get these little flying robot things and a bunch of other enemies. And as I mentioned, 16 levels through a barrage of enemies, and they always end with a boss fight. Yeah, any of these boss fights should seem very familiar for anybody who's played Ninja Turtles. For the most part. I mean, of course you're going to get the classics like Bebop and Rocksteady, who you fight each individually on the first two stages. Then you fight them both again, which wouldn't be the last time, but this time it's inside of their so-called Turtle Tenderizer monster truck. Yeah, if you played Manhattan Project on NES, the third, and might I say the best entry out of the whole TMNT games in the NES library, then it should seem pretty familiar, except this time you actually have to fight and destroy it. And like I said, it wouldn't be the last time you fight these two guys, because you do have to fight them again on foot. And you get pretty much all the familiar villain boss fights from the TMNT franchise, like the Rat King, who I swear makes the one from Turtles in Time look like a cinch, because this guy can really kick the shit out of you and even throw you around too. And it's even worse when he summons his rat friends. But yeah, you also get Leatherhead, Metalhead, Baxter Stockman, Slash, who thankfully isn't as brutally difficult as he was in Turtles in Time. I mean, who could forget that boss fight? And of course, Krang. And that's what the game's story mode seems to revolve around. Most of the cutscenes and everything revolves around trying to get his head, which goes around the city, and then you find his body, and then it reveals Shredder's ultimate revenge plan, redesigning and making the Statue of Liberty at the end the main villain. Well, second to last boss, I should say. Yeah, haven't seen Shredder mess with the Statue of Liberty before, have we? Except this time he made it a freaking boss fight. I mean, that's pretty badass, I will say. And the Krang fight with that music in the background, nice little nod to the original arcade game. But then all these other villains you may not be familiar with unless you've watched the animated series. Like Wingnut, but this time he's without his partner in crime, Screwloose, and I'm not gonna lie, he sounds like Winslow from Cat Dog. I guess that makes sense since he's a rodent in that show, and he's a flying rodent here. Get Ground Chuck and Dirtbag? Yeah, nice names. One tries to beat the shit out of you, and the other digs and also tries to beat the shit out of you. Then you get Tempestra, who's summoned by Shredder through a video game arcade at the mall, out of all places, which I will admit is pretty clever, and I will say she's a pretty cool boss fight, except when she keeps summoning these other enemies to fight. Come on, these are the kind that just annoy me. They have to keep summoning these enemies, especially when they keep dazing you, causing you to see stars. Ugh, I hate these. You also get Captain Zorax, who's at the end of the Natural History Museum stage, which is a pretty fitting location with all the other dinosaurs that you had to fight before. Get General Trag, as if we hadn't have enough of these freaking rock giants in this one stage. Why not a bigger one? And you also get Chrome Dome, which you can't even beat up. Yeah, how do you do it? Well, you have to wait till he looks at you through a point of view shot, and you have to take the Foot Clan and throw it at him, allowing you to finally beat him up and deal him some damage. Sound familiar to anyone who's played Turtles in Time? Yeah. As well as a lot of new material, this game definitely pays a lot of homage and respect to the old style arcade games, which is pretty much what it is. I've already mentioned several of them before, but there's a lot more. I mean, look at all the fighting style moves. Punching, jump kicking. You can pick up your enemies and toss them back and forth, which is a lot easier to do. If you played the newer Streets of Rage game or any of the Final Fight games, you go underneath or on top of them, you can pick them up, but you do the tossing back and forth by holding up on the analog stick and pressing the punch button. Or if you hold down on the analog stick and press the punching move, you can throw them into the screen. Hell yeah! And when you're punching and attacking enemies on one side, you can also do this backward sort of attack on the other, which is definitely useful for when enemies surround you on both sides, I would say. And you can run and do a dash attack too as well. And how about the pizzas? Yes, they make a return. The basic ones that refill your health all the way. There's some that refill every character's health if there's more than one character on the screen. You get that one that lets you spin around for a short period of time, which is helpful for taking out a barrage of enemies. And you think that radical homage to Turtles in Time is all you'll get? How about Shredder in one cutscene saying, "Tonight I dine on turtle soup"? Or hell, how about the second stage being called Big Apple 3 p.m.? Yeah, almost like the first stage in Turtles in Time. How about the loose floorboards that hurt you on the Coney Island stage? Almost like the ones on the pirate ship stage. Or how about the zoo stage where the stampeding animals try to trample you? Yeah, almost like the dinosaurs in the prehistoric Turtlesaurus stage. I can go on and on with these nostalgic bits that you notice along the way. So how about the new features? Well, as I mentioned, 2 different modes of gameplay, both 16 levels in which most of them have you on foot fighting through barrages of enemies, with the exception of 2 of them, in which both are fast-paced auto-scrolling stages. One of them has you on a skateboard on the road, the other on a hoverboard in the sky. And, well, I guess you can also sort of count the beginning of the 14th stage, where you're on the hoverboard, but then after that you're on foot. And there are a few levels in which you go up or down an elevator lift. So it's great to see that this game's level design definitely includes a lot of variety. And lots of different environments, which include fantastic backgrounds and production value designs, which, despite looking cool, do also include a lot of hazards, which can lead to some challenges and occasional frustration. You probably noticed a few that I mentioned before, but there are some new ones that can frustrate you, like when you're in the zoo stage and these freaking monkeys in the background are throwing shit at you, causing you to lose health. Damn dirty apes. You got Foot Clan that can run you over with their cars if you're not careful enough. You got this level with the spikes that come out of the ground. You got these sharp fan blades on the ground that go on and off. You got these things that can freeze you. You got these things that can zap you. This one can zap you, unless you beat up this thing's power source, and there you go. Yeah, can't zap me now. You got some levels with bottomless pits that you can fall into if you don't have accuracy with your jumping. You got the subway train that can run you or the enemies over when you're in the sewers. So yeah, as well as creating hazards for you, it can also create hazards for the enemies too as well. And I already mentioned with the exploding cans that you set off to help take out enemies, but there's a ton of more random things in just about every level that you can use. Yeah, just hit them and most of the time it can knock them right down. And in some cases even take them out. Kick ass. Hell yeah! Sweet. And I definitely love, as I mentioned, the production value of this game. I have to note that people running away in some of the levels almost kind of reminds me of Batman Returns on Super Nintendo. Yeah, the game definitely shows some sense of humor too as well, like with all the Foot Clan and how they interact with all the different environments just before they're ready to fight you. Like they're carrying ice pops here, lunch trays, working the carnival games here. I mean, I'm sure most of us got a giggle out of that the first time playing this. But now to get serious here, yeah, the more newer stuff that this game features are, in the story mode, various different side quests of collecting certain things for certain people or animals throughout different parts of the story mode map. And all the different items that you have to collect for them or all the different objectives you have to do are scattered throughout every single level. They're all in certain locations which thankfully don't change, so you could just look up online if you're trying to figure out where each item is in each level. Not that hard to figure out, but once you collect all of them for each person and complete each task, you get rewarded points. Which brings me to the next newest feature in this story mode, but I also do have to address that each stage has their own set of little challenge objectives. And they're all different random things, whether it's don't get hit by any enemies, or this many obstructions, don't do this move at all, take out a certain amount of enemies with this move, throw this many enemies into a pit. Yeah, you get the picture. I'm just tossing up some random ones. Every level has 3 of them, and they're all different. And you probably also notice when you start up this is on story mode only, each character has a certain number next to them. That is because they decided to go with a rank up system with each character. So this will have you going back and playing the whole story mode with each character, trying to rank them up to unlock different abilities. Which finally brings me to what I've been mentioning several times before, but been meaning to talk more in detail about, the super move. Which thankfully doesn't drain your health. Instead, it drains this other meter that's on top of your health meter, and you refill it by beating up a certain amount of enemies. You can do all sorts of combo moves. Yeah, it's just so much fun. You can fling enemies in the air as many times as you can, if you can manage to. And then you press the X button, go all out. As I said, you get several of these moves you unlock when you rank your characters up more and more, which you do by taking out a certain number of enemies. Not only you can unlock 2 different super moves, which one of them is jumping from the air and pounding the ground. Ooh. Yeah, that's cool. And another one that's a little more trickier to do. You gotta know how to do this right by doing a backflip, and there you go. You can also unlock and get extra lives, and additional upgrades to your power meter, which allows you to carry more of them without having to refill, because obviously, as you know, you need these to be able to perform any of these power moves. You can recharge, of course, by pressing the top R button, and each character, depending on which one you chose, does their own unique little gesture. And it takes a couple of seconds, but the recharge does work. As long as no enemies or anything's hitting you, that is. Otherwise, it won't work. So, yeah, it's best to do it when there's no enemies or hazards around, which you do get plenty of these windows and opportunities in each level. And like I said before, you can hold up to more of these the more you rank your characters up. You start out with 1, and eventually you'll end up with 3, which is the limit. But when you get your character to rank number 8 and you fill your meter up all the way to 3, you press and hold down the top R button, and then you go into what's called radical mode. How radical is it? Well, let's just say it's like your character's on freaking steroid, because until that power meter runs completely out, your character is as powerful as it can just go all out on pretty much every enemy around them. Not to mention there's also another pizza that I forgot to bring up, which allows you to do as many power moves as you want for a very short duration without draining your power meter. So like I said before, it's best to really use these when you're surrounded by a lot of enemies, or if you come across large enemies, and especially boss fights. And another thing, when you complete the story mode all the way through, after the credits roll, you get Casey Jones unlocked as a playable character. Yeah, as if this game couldn't be any more awesome with its fan service. And that's exactly what this game does. It pleases its fans all the way through who grew up with these old school style arcade beat 'em up type of turtle games. I mean, after pretty much all the failed experiments that we've gotten with this franchise, this one is like a breath of fresh air. I mean, that radical intro at the beginning of the game, which pretty much resembles the original cartoon series, which is more than enough to make it have a nerdgasm. Aside from that, the music sounds great, the graphics, the production value, as I mentioned before, is excellent, and the multiplayer mode, whether you're playing it locally or online, I mean, yeah, of course when you're playing up to 6 people at the same time on the same screen, it can get a little chaotic and you can kind of have a hard time figuring out where the hell you are, but come on. Anybody who's played these old school style arcade beat 'em up games knows that this is where it's all at. Brings me back to the glory days, and I can't help but feel like a kid again playing this. Plus, with multiple players playing at the same time simultaneously working as a team, if one goes down, if you do it in time quick enough before their counter runs out, you can actually revive them, by pressing and holding the top L button. Well, as long as no enemies are interrupting you. Kind of works the same way as refilling your power meter. But yep, you can revive them. Definitely a plus with multiplayer mode right there, I would say. But overall, this game definitely lived up to the hype. And I say, whether you wait for the physical copy of this game or download it digitally now, either way, it is a radically awesome time. I mean, it looks great, it sounds great, it plays great, and of course because I got the version on Nintendo Switch, I can not only enjoy it at home, but also on the go. So, cowabunga to that, because it is definitely worthy of a Rockin' Wii Motion Plus up and a Play Mirror mode up. So, till next time, happy gaming.